Have you ever considered that the person you take a bullet for might be the one pulling the trigger when you're at your absolute weakest? Imagine this. You're lying in a cold, sterile hospital room. The air smells of sharp chemicals and iodine. Your ears are filled with the rhythmic, haunting beep, beep of the heart monitor. You've just come out of surgery. Your body is shattered. Every nerve ending is screaming in pain, and you can barely move a finger. And in that moment of total vulnerability, you hear voices outside your door. The voices of the people you trusted with your life. They didn't come to comfort you. They didn't come to check if you were still breathing. They came to put a price tag on your existence. I heard it with my own ears when they whispered, "He's become a burden now. How long are we supposed to pay for this? How long is our life supposed to be on hold because of his recovery?" In that second, the physical pain of the surgery vanished, replaced by a cold, numbing betrayal that sliced deeper than any surgeon's knife. These were the people I gave my youth to, the people I sacrificed my own dreams for. And now, because I was temporarily down, I was nothing more than an inconvenience. The biggest lie the world tells you is that family and friends will always be there. The brutal truth? Most people are only with you as long as you are useful to them. The moment your utility expires, their love disappears. I could have stayed in that bed and cried. I could have called them in and begged for their pity. I could have screamed, "How could you do this to me?" But I didn't. I made a decision right there on that cold white sheet. If they saw me as a burden, I was going to remove that burden from their lives forever. I decided I wouldn't argue because you don't fight with trash, you just throw it out. I decided to walk away. Without a single word. Without a single explanation. I wanted my silence to be so loud that they wouldn't feel my absence until I was already thousands of miles beyond their reach. This video is for anyone who has been labeled failed, broken, or useless by the people they loved. If you feel like your world has ended because someone let go of your hand, stop. It hasn't ended. This is your origin story. This is the exact moment where an ordinary person decides to become a legend. Today, I'm going to show you how to rise when the world expects you to stay buried. I'm going to show you how to reclaim your dignity without saying a word. Because remember, when a lion steps back, he isn't retreating in fear. He's gauging the distance for the kill. Are you ready to prove them wrong? Are you ready to meet the version of yourself that the world will fear and respect? Then let's begin this journey, from the bed of betrayal to the throne of greatness. The hardest walk you will ever take is the one that leads you away from the people you thought would be with you forever. People always ask me, "Why didn't you scream? Why didn't you demand an explanation?" But here is a secret that the most powerful people in the world know. Your silence is your greatest weapon. When you are called a burden, your words lose their value to those people. If they couldn't see your worth in your years of sacrifice, they certainly won't see it in your tears. I waited. I lay there in that hospital bed, playing the role they expected. I let them believe I was still the broken, helpless version of myself they were so eager to discard. But inside, I was calculating. I was planning. I was rebuilding my spirit while my body was still catching up. Every time a nurse helped me take a step, I wasn't just practicing walking. I was practicing my escape. Suspense is a funny thing. Most people think it's about what you say. It's actually about what you don't say. By remaining silent, I was taking back the power they thought they had over me. They expected me to beg. They expected me to apologize for being sick. They expected me to be a victim. But a victim is someone who waits for permission to move. A survivor is someone who waits for the right moment to strike. The day came. The doctors gave me the discharge papers. My family wasn't there to pick me up. They had sent a taxi, another sign that I was just a task to be checked off their list. I walked out of those hospital sliding doors, the cold air hitting my face for the first time in weeks. I looked at that taxi and then I looked at the horizon. I didn't get in. I walked to the nearest bus station. I had a small bag of clothes and barely enough money to last a week. I didn't leave a note. I didn't send a text. I didn't post a cryptic status on social media. I simply vanished. You see, the world wants you to stay in toxic environments because it's comfortable. Society tells you to work it out with people who are draining your soul. But sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is leave. Walking away without a word is the ultimate act of self-love. It says, "You are no longer worth my energy." It says, "My life is a privilege you have just lost." As the bus pulled away, I felt a terrifying mix of fear and adrenaline. I had no home, no job, and a body that was still healing. But for the first time in my life, I was light. I was no longer carrying the weight of their expectations. I was no longer a burden, because I had no one to be a burden to. If you are watching this and you feel trapped, whether it's in a dead-end job, a soul-crushing relationship, or a house where you are not respected, understand this. You are not a tree. You can move. The fear you feel right now is not a warning to stay. It is the energy you need to launch. But here is where the real suspense begins. When you walk away from everything, you are left with nothing but yourself. And for most people, that is the scariest part. Who are you when you're not the provider, the sick one, or the helper? Who are you when the world stops watching? In the next part, I'm going to take you into the darkest nights of my journey. The nights where I slept on floors, the nights where I regretted leaving, and the exact moment I realized that my nothing was actually the everything I needed to build an empire. Don't go anywhere. Because the transition from the broken burden to the unstoppable force is about to get very real. If you've ever felt like you're at zero, you're exactly where you need to be to start counting. They tell you that walking away is the hardest part. They lie. The hardest part is the silence that follows. It's the 3 o'clock in the morning realization that you are truly, completely alone. After I left, I found myself in a cramped, rented room that smelled of old dust and damp walls. My bed was a thin mattress on the floor. My kitchen was a single electric plate. My body still ached from the surgery, and every time I tried to lift something heavy, a sharp pain reminded me of how fragile I still was. This is the part of the story they don't show you in the 60-second reels. This is the grind. This is the void. I remember sitting on that floor, staring at my phone. It was silent. No calls. No "where are you?" texts. No "we're sorry" messages. The people who called me a burden had simply moved on. They weren't searching for me because, to them, the problem had solved itself. The silence was deafening. And in that silence, the demons started whispering. "Maybe they were right," the voice said. "Maybe you are nothing without them. You're broke, you're weak, and you're alone. You should have stayed. At least you had a roof over your head. At least you weren't a stranger in a strange city." Tone becomes intense and whispering. Have you ever had that internal war? Where your logic tells you that you made the right choice, but your fear is screaming at you to run back to the very people who destroyed you. That is the moment most people fail. They break. They pick up the phone, they apologize for things they didn't do, and they go back to being a burden just to feel safe. But safety is a slow death. I realized that if I went back, I wouldn't just be a burden to them. I would be a burden to my own soul. I would be a traitor to the person I was meant to become. I had to learn how to survive on a level I never knew existed. I took jobs that were beneath me. I scrubbed floors while my surgical scars were still pink and fresh. I walked miles in the rain because I couldn't afford a bus ticket. Every night I would come back to that empty room, my muscles trembling, my pride shattered. But something strange started to happen in that isolation. When you have no one to talk to, you start listening to yourself. When you have no one to lean on, you realize how strong your own legs are. I started to see my life not as a tragedy, but as a blank canvas. Those people who left me, they didn't just take away their support, they took away their limitations. They took away their "you can't do this" and "you're not good enough." I began to study. I spent my last few dollars on books and my nights in public libraries. I used the pain as a timer. As long as it hurts, I will work. I told myself. As long as I am hungry, I will build. I wasn't just working for money, I was working for a version of myself that didn't exist yet. Building the hype/suspense, I want you to look at your current struggle, whatever it is, and stop seeing it as a wall. See it as a weight room. You are being trained by the universe. The loneliness is not a punishment. It is a protection. It is keeping the wrong people away while you develop the skills for the next level. But here's the question that kept me up at night. When does it end? When do the scars stop aching? When does the bank account start growing? I was working, I was praying, I was sweating, but nothing was changing on the outside. I was still in that small room. I was still the nobody. In the next part, I am going to show you the exact moment the shift happened. I'm going to tell you about the one phone call that changed everything, and the secret lesson I learned about how to turn invisible effort into visible empire. Stay with me, because the hardest part is over, and the transformation is about to begin. You've survived the betrayal, you've survived the exit, and you've survived the grind. Now, it's time to win. There is a law in nature that most people forget. The darker the night, the closer the dawn. For months, I lived as a ghost. I was working 3 jobs, sleeping 4 hours, and pouring every ounce of my soul into a vision that only I could see. My hands were calloused, my eyes were tired, but my spirit? My spirit was becoming bulletproof. And then it happened. Not with a bang, but with a realization. I remember standing in front of a cracked mirror in that small, dusty room. I looked at the scars on my body from the surgery, the same scars that my family saw as a sign of weakness. And for the first time, I didn't see a victim. I saw a survivor. I realized that if I could survive a broken body, a broken heart, and a broken bank account all at once, then there wasn't a force on this planet that could stop me. The shift is a psychological explosion. It's that moment when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start saying, "This happened for me." Suddenly, my small efforts began to snowball. The skills I had been practicing in the dark started to shine in the light. I wasn't just working for a paycheck anymore. I was building an empire of one. I started a small business from that very floor I slept on. I used the burden label as my brand. Every time someone told me no, I heard the voices of those people in the hospital, and I pushed harder. I worked while they slept. I learned while they partied. I saved while they spent. Building the hype/viral energy, and then came the day the world caught up to my reality. My business took off. The nobody who walked away without a word was suddenly the person everyone wanted to talk to. The phone that had been silent for a year started ringing. But here is the part that will give you chills. It wasn't just strangers calling. The news of my success started to filter back to my old life. The friends who disappeared? They started liking my posts. The family who called me a burden? They started asking people for my new number. They saw the car, they saw the house, they saw the confidence in my eyes, and they couldn't believe it. They thought I was dead in a ditch somewhere, but instead I was standing on top of the world. Have you ever experienced the ghost of your past trying to haunt your future? When they finally reached out, and trust me, they always reach out once you're winning, they didn't lead with an apology. They led with, "We were so worried about you. We always knew you had it in you." I sat there, looking at the screen of my phone, and I felt nothing. No anger. No desire for revenge. Just a deep, profound sense of peace. Because I realized that the greatest revenge isn't hurting them. It's becoming so successful that you don't even remember why you were angry in the first place. My success was the only word I needed to send back to them. Suspenseful transition, but don't get it twisted. This isn't just about the money or the fame. The real transformation happened inside. I replaced my need for their love with a deep, unshakable love for myself. I realized that being a burden was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it forced me to carry my own weight. If you are in the grind phase right now, listen to me. Keep going. Do not look back. Do not check their social media. Do not wonder what they are thinking. The version of you they knew is dead. You are being reborn in the fire of your own ambition. You are about to enter the final stage. The stage where you don't just win, you dominate. In the final part, I'm going to share the ultimate code for staying at the top and how to make sure you never, ever let anyone make you feel like a burden again. The closing message is coming, and it's going to change the way you see your life forever. Stay tuned because the best is yet to come. Success is the loudest silence in the world. There I was standing in a life I once only dreamed of. The struggle was over, the bills were paid, and the body that was once broken was now stronger than it had ever been. But the real victory wasn't the bank account. It was the moment I ran into one of them, one of the people from that hospital room in a high-end coffee shop. They looked at me and I saw the shock in their eyes. They tried to speak, tried to stumble through an excuse, tried to reclaim a place in my life with a fake smile. But as I looked at them, I realized something beautiful. I didn't hate them. I didn't want to show off. I simply didn't recognize them anymore. Not because I had forgotten their faces, but because the person they were talking to, the burden, no longer existed. I had walked away from their version of me so completely that we were now living in two different universes. Tone becomes intense and direct. Listen to me closely. Your life will truly begin the moment you realize that you don't owe an explanation to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You were never a burden. You were just too heavy for people who were too weak to carry their own weight. They tried to project their inadequacy onto you, and your only mistake was believing them for a second. This journey, from the surgery to the silence, from the grind to the throne, it wasn't about the destination. It was about the evolution. It was about discovering that when you have nothing left but your own soul, you finally have enough to build an empire. You had to be stripped of everything so you could see that you were everything. You are the author, the architect, and the hero of this story. Don't you dare let a side character tell you how the book ends. If they walked away when you were down, don't let them back in now that you're up. Protect your peace like it's your life, because it is. Your energy is a currency. Don't spend it on people who are spiritually bankrupt. The hype build up for the finish. As you finish this video, I want you to take a deep breath. Feel the air in your lungs. That breath is a gift. That heartbeat is a command. It is commanding you to rise. It is commanding you to leave the past in the grave where it belongs. The world is waiting for you. Not the broken you. Not the victim you. But the version of you that decided to walk away and never look back. The version of you that turned, I can't, into watch me. The version of you that is absolutely, undeniably unstoppable. The ultimate YouTube outro, viral and engaging. Music, orchestral, cinematic, slowly fading into a rhythmic beat. If you are still here, if you've watched all 5 parts of this journey, it's because you know this story isn't just mine, it's yours. You felt every word because you are in the middle of your own comeback right now. That I want you to do something powerful. I want you to claim your future right now in the comments. Type "My time is now" if you are ready to walk away from the people and the thoughts that are holding you back. Let's turn this comment section into a wall of fire that the world cannot ignore. If this video gave you the spark you needed, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that this message needs to reach more people who are suffering in silence. And if you haven't already, join this family of lions. Hit subscribe and turn on those notifications because we are just getting started. We don't just watch videos here, we change lives. Remember, they called you a burden. Soon they'll call you sir. Soon they'll call you boss. Soon they'll call you inspiration. Keep grinding. Keep growing. And above all, keep walking. I'll see you in the next one. Stay hungry. Stay legendary. Success is the loudest silence in the world. That no arguments, no revenge, no explanations, just results. There I was standing in a life I once cried for. The struggle? Over. The sleepless nights? Gone. The pain that once defined me? Turned into strength. But here's the truth. The real victory wasn't the money. It wasn't the comfort. It wasn't even the success people could see. The real victory was who I became, because one day, in a place I never imagined I'd be, It happened that I ran into one of them, not in a hospital, not in a place of weakness, but in a high-end coffee shop, a place that reflected the life I had built. They looked at me, and for a second time froze. That I saw it in their eyes, shock, confusion, disbelief, like their mind was trying to connect two different realities, the person they once called a burden, and the person standing in front of them now. They tried to speak, words stumbled, excuses formed. That fake smile, the one people use when they realize they misjudged you. They tried to reconnect it, act like nothing happened, to find their way back into my life. But as I stood there, something strange happened. That I didn't feel anger, that I didn't feel pain, that I didn't even feel the need to prove anything. That I felt nothing. And in that nothing was everything, because in that moment, I realized something beautiful, that I hadn't just changed my life. I had outgrown their version of me completely. The person they were talking to, the burden, the weak one, the silent one they overlooked, that person no longer existed. Not because I forgot who I was, but because I became someone they could never understand. That we weren't in the same story anymore, we weren't even in the same world. They were still living in the past, and I had already built a future, and that's when it hit me. This journey was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. Tone shifts, intense, direct, so listen carefully. Because this might be the truth you've been avoiding. Your life will begin the moment you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Read that again in your mind. You don't owe clarity to people who choose confusion. You don't owe effort to people who never valued your presence. You don't owe access to people who only remember you when you rise. You were never a burden. You were just too powerful for people who were too weak to grow. They projected their limitations onto you, and you believed it. Even if just for a moment. But that moment? It's over. This journey, from pain to power, from silence to strength, from being overlooked to becoming undeniable. It was never about the destination. It was about evolution. It was about discovering something most people never realize, that when everything is taken from you, and all you have left is yourself, you don't have nothing, you have everything, because from that place you rebuild, stronger, smarter, unstoppable. You become the author of your life, the architect of your future, the hero of your own story. And hear me clearly. Never let a side character decide how your story ends. If they walked away when you were down, they don't deserve a seat when you rise. Protect your peace, like your life depends on it, because it does. Your energy is your currency, and it's too valuable to be wasted on people who are emotionally and spiritually bankrupt. Hype build up, slow powerful rise. Right now, as you're listening to this, take a deep breath. Feel that air fill your lungs. That breath. It's not random, but it's a signal, a reminder, to command. You're still here. You still have time. You still have power. Your heartbeat right now is telling you something. Rise. Move. Change. Become. Leave the past where it belongs. Not in your mind. Not in your emotions, but buried. Done. Finished. Because the world is not waiting for the broken version of you. Not the victim. Not the one who doubts. Not the one who stays stuck. The world is waiting for the version of you that decided enough. The version that said, I'm done being small. I'm done being silent. I'm done being less than what I know I am. The version of you that turned I can't into watch me. And once you reach that point, there's no going back. Because that version of you is unstoppable. Ultimate YouTube OUTRO, high engagement plus viral CTA. If you're still here, if you've watched this entire journey, then understand this. This was never just my story. This is your story too. That's why you felt it. That's why it hit you. Because somewhere inside you, you're going through your own transformation right now. So I want you to do something powerful. Right now. Don't think. Just do it. Go to the comments and type, my time is now. Claim it. Own it. Declare it. Let's turn this comment section into a wall of people who refuse to stay stuck, who refuse to be disrespected, who refuse to live small. And if this video gave you even one spark, hit that like button, because that one click can push this message to someone who's suffering in silence right now. And if you haven't already joined this family, hit subscribe. Turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning. We don't just tell stories here. We build mindsets. We create strength. We change lives. And remember this: they once called you a burden, but very soon, they'll call you something else. They'll call you boss. They'll call you leader. They'll call you inspiration. Keep going, keep growing, keep walking forward no matter what. Because your story is far from over. It's just getting started. I'll see you in the next one. Stay hungry, stay focused, and stay legendary. Fire.